It all began with a headline that blindsided everyone. King Harris, the young heir to fame and fortune, was suddenly on the verge of losing everything. Fans, critics, and the entire world froze as alarming reports about his health started to spread. Serious complications no one ever expected from someone his age. The rumors exploded overnight. Some whispered it was a medical emergency. Others hinted at something far darker happening behind the scenes. And just like that, everything started to spiral. King Harris had ruled the spotlight for years, seemingly unstoppable, a force no one could touch. But now doctors were murmuring things that made fans' hearts sink. The silence inside that hospital was suffocating. Family gathered close, phones buzzing nonstop, dread hanging in the air as they faced a moment no one wanted to believe. The fall of a young legend who once seemed untouchable. People everywhere started asking the same haunting question. How did we end up here? How did a superstar who had the world chanting his name wind up in a sterile hospital bed surrounded by machines and uncertainty? Fans didn't know what to think. Some clung to the idea that it had to be another one of King's dramatic stunts. But as details trickled out, denial became impossible. Something was very, very wrong. And trust me, the truth that began to unfold was nothing like anyone had imagined. Online, chaos took over. Social media exploded. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all flooded with wild theories, prayers, and conspiracies. Some fans begged for his recovery, hearts breaking at the thought of losing him too soon. Others felt vindicated, almost satisfied, as if his downfall was something they'd seen coming. And then there were those caught in confusion, unsure what to believe. Insiders began leaking information, claiming King had been battling health issues for months, while the family kept everything buried. Could this really be the end for King Harris, the rebel prince of controversy who never followed the rules? But here's the twist. This was no longer just about his health. This was about an empire built on fame, scandal, and secrets. And as days passed, it became clear King's collapse wasn't just his story anymore. It was everyone's who'd helped build the myth. The dynasty itself was beginning to crack. Whispers grew louder. Doctors were reportedly worried not only about his body, but the toll fame had taken on him. The stress, the pressure, the non-stop grind. Leaked reports mentioned stress-induced organ failure. Others suggested something even darker. Rumors of self-medication, pills, late-night parties, substances to keep him performing. Was this the price of success? Or had King been trapped by his family, the industry, and his own demons? And here's the part that shocked everyone. The Harris family, always loud, always on camera, went silent. Not just silent in grief, but silent in strategy. Sources claimed they weren't focused on saving King. They were trying to protect their brand. King wasn't just their son. He was their moneymaker, their public image. Everything they'd built depended on him, and they couldn't afford to let it fall apart. It soon became clear that King's decline had been covered up for months. But the world wasn't buying it. Leaks kept surfacing, and fans demanded answers. Why didn't anyone say something sooner? Was this really about a health collapse, or something far more sinister? People began revisiting King's erratic public moments, the outbursts, the live rants, the sudden disappearances. Was he broken by the pressure or simply out of control? One thing was certain. This wasn't just a health scare anymore. It was a reckoning for the Harris legacy. The illusion of perfection was cracking, revealing years of strain beneath the surface. The pressure to be flawless, to live up to the family name, had finally taken its toll. As the family huddled inside the hospital, cameras outside captured every tear, every whisper, every move. Meanwhile, the internet picked apart their entire history, digging for secrets, for truths they'd never wanted to face. What had they been hiding all along? Was King paying the ultimate price for the lifestyle forced upon him? Then came the darkest twist yet. As the family waited, desperate and cornered, whispers grew that King had been involved in something far deeper, something that could destroy the entire Harris empire. What was once a carefully managed narrative of fame and power was now unraveling in public view. While King Harris fought for his life, his family wasn't just fighting for him, they were fighting for their survival. The truth emerging from behind those hospital doors was far worse than anyone imagined. King's collapse wasn't sudden. It had been building for years. He'd been collapsing backstage, vanishing for days, while the family looked the other way, And now, the world was finally asking the question they never wanted to answer. Why? Because in the end, the brand, their empire, mattered more than the man himself. You see, King Harris wasn't just another celebrity or some spoiled kid living off a famous last name. He was a product, carefully packaged and marketed for profit. Every move he made was planned, every headline crafted to keep him trending, to keep the money flowing. In that endless machine of fame, his health became background noise. And that's what makes this story so disturbing. The Harris family, the same people who built their fortune around him, had let him fall apart, all in the name of protecting their image. What makes it even more twisted? Despite his fame, King wasn't living like a star. He was living like a prisoner. Pushed to the edge, expected to be perfect every second. He wasn't treated like a son. He was treated like a paycheck. His world, the performances, the parties, the social media persona, it was all part of the brand. The second he couldn't keep up, he became disposable. And when the pressure finally broke him, the family did what they always did best. They covered it up, keeping their empire spotless while King crumbled in silence. Then the whispers began. Insiders started leaking what was really happening behind those polished smiles. They said King had been struggling for months, maybe longer, but the family refused to admit it. Why? Because it didn't fit the perfect story they'd built. The reality was messier than anyone imagined. Doctors weren't just treating exhaustion. They were treating something far more serious. There were murmurs of organ failure, substance abuse, and habits that had gone unchecked for too long. As the leaks spread, bigger questions surfaced. Was King Harris a casualty of his family's obsession with fame, or did he sabotage himself with bad decisions? Fans and critics were divided. Some blamed the industry that chewed him up and spit him out. Others thought he'd simply lost control. But then things got even darker. More and more fingers pointed back to the family, the people who were supposed to protect him. Their silence became deafening. Were they really mourning their son, or were they just trying to save their reputation? But that wasn't the end of it. The deeper people dug, the uglier it got. Some insiders claimed King had discovered things that could have destroyed everything his family built. What if his health crisis wasn't the only story? What if he'd started to see through the illusion, realizing the empire was built on lies? There were whispers that King wanted out, that he'd planned to break free, expose the truth, and leave the Harris name behind. Shady business deals, hidden sponsors, quiet money movements, all of it. Suddenly his rebellion made sense. Maybe he wasn't reckless. Maybe he was trapped. And then came the bombshell. Reports surfaced of a private recording, one King allegedly made just days before he collapsed. In it, he talked about betrayal, about feeling manipulated by those closest to him. If that recording was real, it could flip the entire story upside down. King wasn't just the golden child anymore. He'd become a liability, a threat to the very empire that had built him. So the question began to shift. What if King's downfall wasn't just a health issue? What if someone wanted to silence him before he could expose the truth? If that tape ever saw the light of day, it could take down the entire Harris dynasty. The brand, the fame, the power, all of it could vanish overnight. And now, fans were starting to see it differently. Was King really a victim of fame's brutal pressure, or was he caught in something much darker, a web of greed, control, and betrayal? The more people learned, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a story about one man's breakdown. It was the unraveling of a family empire built on secrets and lies. Behind those hospital doors, their perfect image was crumbling fast. Each leak, each revelation, peeled back another layer of the truth. And what lay beneath wasn't pretty. The world was watching the Harris dynasty implode in real time. And no matter how hard they tried to bury it, the truth was clawing its way to the surface. You won't believe what unfolded next. As tension thickened inside the hospital, whispers from sources close to the Harris family began to surface. The picture that emerged was far from the polished image they'd always shown the world. Reports about King's condition went beyond stress and fame. They hinted at something far more troubling. Insiders revealed King had been secretly battling a dangerous habit. Energy pills, stimulants, maybe even worse. And the family's efforts to shield him, they only made things worse. But here's the twist. While King's health spiraled, the family's main concern wasn't his recovery. It was the brand. The Harris name couldn't appear weak. So they stayed silent, kept pushing him harder, ignoring every warning just to protect their empire. Soon the story grew darker. Leaked details painted a portrait of a family consumed by greed and corruption. Was King really a victim of pressure, or just a pawn in a bigger game? The Harris Empire had been built on his image, his voice, his talent. But now that empire was crumbling. Insiders claimed King's breakdown came not from fame, but from the crushing weight of family expectations. Rumors swirled that he'd been forced to live a lie, to keep up appearances for the sake of the brand. As more leaks surfaced, things turned even more disturbing. It wasn't just the industry pushing him, it was his own blood. King's life had become a product, a spectacle for profit. When the cracks showed, they looked the other way. His breakdowns, his viral outbursts, all signs of a deeper truth the family fought to bury. Some even whispered that King had become too unpredictable, too aware. What if he'd started questioning everything? What if he was ready to expose it all? Sources claimed he planned to walk away, break free, speak out, and reveal the truth. But was that what led to his collapse? Was it family pressure or something far more sinister? Weeks passed and more leaks hit the internet. King's story wasn't just about fame, it was about a long-hidden darkness. Confidential medical records hinted at substance abuse. Allegations of money laundering and shady business deals began circulating. The Harris legacy, once untouchable, was cracking. Fans and critics alike wondered, had King's whole world been a lie? And then came the most shocking part. Rumors about King's condition began spinning out of control. People claimed his collapse wasn't about stress or addiction. It was the direct result of years of exploitation. He'd been pushed to exhaustion to uphold the brand. And when he couldn't go any further, they let him fall. But who was really to blame? The industry? Or his own family? Then the final bombshell dropped. A leaked recording, allegedly from the days before King's collapse. In it, he speaks about betrayal, manipulation, and the crushing realization that his life was never his own. His voice cracks as he says, "I can't keep pretending. I'm being set up and nobody cares. If the recording is real, it could destroy everything." The Harris Empire, built entirely on King's talent, was now being torn apart by his words. Had he finally uncovered the truth? And did that realization drive him over the edge? As the recording spread online, chaos erupted. Some called it fake, a PR stunt, but others believed every word. The internet buzzed with theories. King Harris wasn't just a casualty of fame. He was a victim of control, of family greed. But the biggest question of all, did his family know he was about to expose them? And if they did they stop him? The deeper the world dug, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about one young man's collapse. It was about the Harris family's buried secrets. And once those secrets surfaced, nothing would ever be the same. The world wasn't just watching King's downfall, they were witnessing the collapse of a dynasty. The leaked recording ignited a firestorm online. Everyone was talking, fans, critics, insiders. And the more they searched, the uglier it got. King Harris's tragedy wasn't an isolated crisis. It was the unraveling of an empire once thought untouchable. The Harris family wasn't only fighting for their son's recovery. They were battling a full-blown public meltdown. As new leaks surfaced, rumors of fraud, shady sponsors, and money laundering spread like wildfire. What once looked like a perfect celebrity family now seemed like something far darker. And here's where it gets even worse. Despite all the chaos, the family tried to maintain control. But the cracks were too deep to hide. People started demanding answers. What really happened before King collapsed? How much did they know? Were they complicit or just blind to his pain? Investigators began digging. Some said King's condition was the result of years of neglect, both by the industry and his family. Others whispered of something even more dangerous, something that, if exposed, could destroy everything the Harris name stood for. Was King Harris's collapse just the beginning of the end? Was King's collapse just the start of something far bigger, an investigation that could shake the entire Harris dynasty? The fallout was massive. Fans who once idolized the family began to turn against them. Hashtags like "Try Justice for King" and "You Harris Exposed" started trending everywhere as people began questioning the real price of fame. What had King been pushed to endure behind closed doors? And were the Harrises complicit in his suffering to protect their empire? Each day the backlash grew louder, and just when it seemed things couldn't spiral any further, the bomb dropped. Confidential files, hospital reports, and financial records hit the internet, revealing the darker side of the Harris fortune. Documents linked King's substance traces to private suppliers allegedly tied to underground Atlanta rings, the same networks whispered to be involved in money laundering and illegal enhancers. This wasn't just another celebrity scandal. It was a story that hinted at criminal depth. Now the question wasn't simply about King's health. It was about everything the Harris family stood on. Was their wealth clean, or had their glamorous image been built on dirty money and deception? Investigators began digging into King's finances, contracts, and the family's business empire. Rumors of tax evasion, hidden sponsors, and secret deals spread like wildfire. The craziest part? The family didn't back down. Their PR team launched into overdrive, trying to rewrite the narrative, issuing statements, staging interviews, and fighting to control the storm. But the harder they tried, the worse it got. The audience wasn't buying it. They wanted answers. Under pressure, the Harris family found themselves trapped in a corner with nowhere left to hide. But just as the story seemed ready to explode, another twist surfaced, another recording. Sources close to the family claimed King had left behind a second voice note, recorded days before his collapse. In it, he allegedly spoke of betrayal, manipulation, and feeling like a pawn in his own family's empire. If this recording ever leaked, it could obliterate the Harris brand completely. As investigations into the family's business empire intensified, legal experts warned that things were about to get ugly. Federal probes, lawsuits, even criminal indictments were suddenly on the table. The Harris dynasty, once untouchable, now faced total collapse. And then it got even worse. More leaks poured out. Fans started connecting the dots, the medical records, the substances, the ignored red flags. Even more shocking, documents surfaced proving the family had been warned weeks before King's breakdown. Doctors had told them that if he didn't slow down, his body wouldn't make it. They ignored it, choosing their empire over their son. Social media erupted. Outrage flooded every platform. People demanded justice. The legend of King Harris, once the golden child of fame, had shattered, leaving behind the image of a broken family crumbling under the weight of its own secrets. The leaks had stripped everything bare. The Harris family, once a symbol of success, was now at the center of a nightmare of their own making. King Harris's death wasn't just a tragedy. It marked the beginning of the end for an empire built on lies, ambition, and betrayal. Now the family stood at a dangerous crossroads. One path toward truth and accountability, the other toward deeper cover-ups and irreversible ruin. But just when it seemed the chaos had peaked, whispers of a new investigation began to circulate. Anonymous insiders claimed that federal agents were closing in, tracing the family's money trail, uncovering secret accounts, and linking them to potential laundering operations. The final chapter of the Harris saga hadn't arrived yet. It was only beginning. The internet watched every move, waiting for the next revelation. The truth was out there now, unstoppable. King Harris's collapse had sparked a reckoning, and no matter how hard the family tried to contain it, the Harris legacy would never look the same again.